Thank you, Councillor. Right, item 13. Other rates and fees over our 10-year recovery budget. And I bring back to the table Andrew Duncan and Aaron. Eric. I won't call it rats and mice because it's quite significant, but the extra bits. Over to you, Andrew.
Good afternoon. This report brings together all the other rates and fees issues you consulted with the community on as part of the recovery budget. I'll go through some of the key issues in this report. There are quite a few recommendations here. The first is a proposal to introduce an electricity network resilience targeted rate. Vector approached us suggesting we do this to put a rate on them, which we would then use to fund enhanced management of trees on our roads and parks that were near their power lines, to improve the safety around the power lines and then enhance the resilience and supply security of the Vector electricity network. The second issue is a proposal to extend the life of the city centre targeted rate. It funds additional investment in making the city centre a great place to live, work and visit, to align that with the period of the recovery budget. Currently it would otherwise expire at the end of 24-25. We're also recommending some additional increases to the waste management refuse rate that applies in Auckland and Manukau City, and to the bin and bag charges that we charge in the rest of the Auckland region for our refuse service. We weren't able to consult on this, and the increases are a result of the government's decisions to increase the waste levy for the tonnes of waste to landfill. There's then some decisions that were made last year in regards to the Waitakere sewerage rate and reinstating the interest on loan repayment rates, some small cost inflation adjustments to some of our other targeted rates in the order of 1%. We did adopt a Clevedon wastewater and water connection targeted rate last year. We're recommending that this be removed. No one's joined it, and we don't think we should be in that activity. As for the new people who would enter into this loan repayment targeted rate, we're not able to meet our obligations under the Consumer Contract Credit Compliance Act. We've got a proposal to charge a targeted rate to fund the maintenance and operation of the stormwater assets in the TRI and Okahukura drainage districts that was consulted on. These are the only rural parts of Auckland with council funded stormwater services. The recommendation is that they have a targeted rate to pay for the services they receive. We've got some changes to bid rates, and then proposals that were consulted on to do a small increase in our venue hire fees that hadn't been increased since 2014, I think, to remove our library fines for late returns. That was well supported in consultation, and some changes to our regulatory fees. And also, you decided last month to suspend the APTR and to reduce the expenditure on visitor attraction and major events accordingly. So that'd be suspending that for a year. So it would start again on the 1st of July 2022.
What's the APTR?
Accommodation provider targeted rate. Apologies. You will of course be able to reconsider that issue as part of forming your budget for the 2022-23 year, so you'll be able to start considering that again. Sorry for all the hot air. As part of the annual budget process, which you'll be looking at again in October. So that'll be up in front of you again shortly. You've made a decision on this basis. Today's meeting is just to confirm that after having considered the local board feedback that's noted in our advice and in the other papers you've received. Offer got anything else, Aaron? Great, thank you.
All right, any questions on this? We have talked it through, but I'm just...
Can we just scroll it up because the Nexus is playing up again? I can't
Okay.
see all the recommendations online. Thanks.
Look, I know some of you have just been saying it's really hot. It is. It's now that we've now just got icy Antarctic air coming through. I can feel it, but it's not because of all the hot air in the room. It is just the aircon's been playing up a bit, but it's now coming through. I can feel it. It's really cold, so it's coming. Okay. Oh, that's great. Okay. You have a mover from the deputy mayor. You're not seconding it? No. I'll happy to second it.
I'm question.
Yeah. All right. Just wait. Me. Right. Question order. Is it over here somewhere? Sayers, Fletcher. Questions? Questions? Henderson. Start with Councillor Fletcher, please.
Thank you. I wonder if you could confirm on the targeted accommodation rate, what expenditure in legal costs has council incurred thus far?
I don't have the answer to that question, but we can find that out for you and get back to you on it.
Thank you. Any more? No. Councillor Sayers. Councillor Fletcher, could you turn your mic off, please? Thanks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One question, I might just reserve my right to speak to it, but it's just around the item 10 there about the drainage boards up in the Rodney area. Just had a couple of questions there, and Andrew might be able to help answer these, Madam Chair, who's come to the table. The first one is just for clarity, in terms of the ownership of the drains, I don't think they're all private. My understanding is there's a mixture of Crown drains, healthy water drains, Auckland Council drains, and private drains, which I think you'll be able to confirm that. But have we got a rough idea about how much is what, how much is this in private ownership compared to, say, Crown or local body?
Thank you, Councillor.
Yes.
Andrew?
So most of the drains are on private land and privately owned. Where the waterways are wide enough to be, they're essentially with the Crown, and the boundaries come up to the sides of the waterway, and the council assets are predominantly where they cross roads. So the structures on the roads, there are floodgates, and some areas along the sides of roads in the council reserves.
Thank you, Andrew. If I could just carry on with a few questions along that. So Andrew, in terms of our contribution or the Crown's contribution towards maintaining these going forward, how does that kind of model work in terms of a little bit of equity there, in terms of how do you see there being, somebody saying, well, that's a Crown responsibility, why aren't the Crown looking after it, why am I?
So fundamentally, the operation of the drainage districts are for the benefit of the productive land use for the farmers within the catchment. From the Rodney Council days, there's been a $26,000 per annum contribution to maintaining those drains, and for the last decade, that has basically been spraying them for weeds. That's all it really covers. That has not been sufficient to maintain them clear and free running for the purposes of drainage, and so the landowners started to take legal action to council, and really where we are today is developing a sustainable funding model so that we can ensure that the investment to keep them operating keeps going.
I'd also note that the targeted rate funding of drainage districts, these are the only 3 remaining ones in the Auckland area that we're recommending on today, but targeted rate funding is extensively used through a lot of the other councils across the upper North Island, at least, that we've looked at previously, and that number may have been reported in our December advice. So it's quite a widely used standard tool to provide these services in rural areas for the drainage districts to benefit the productive land that Andrew referred to.
thank you for rounding that out. I'm probably trying to, Madam Chair, probably just got two more questions. One, in terms of the sustainable model working going forward, what role do the landowners play in this in a partnership with the Auckland Council and Healthy Waters, probably particularly? How does that work?
So the proposal here is that council will use its rating powers to ensure that everyone in the catchment, there's a few hundred landowners there, pay their fair share. But then, by way of grant back to the various landowners, pay them to undertake the maintenance or for them to employ contractors themselves. One of the points of pain for the landowners when we went to consultation was when council used its contractors, driving all the way up from Takapuna, say, to do the spraying. The cost was prohibitive and they could do it much more effectively. So we're developing a model where they can do the maintenance much more efficiently. If the costs and the long-term maintenance can be done significantly more efficiently, then I guess we have the opportunity to re-look at the setting of those rates at every annual budget.
Good, I might just finish with my final. Yeah. Oh, sorry, mate.
And being a targeted rate, we can only spend those funds on the activity of maintaining those drains.
Yeah, that's a key point, yeah.
I'll just finish off with the final question then, and maybe my comment as well. In the paper, it talks about quite a large figure, about $260,000 of works that need to be done prior to this kind of being, it's catch-up work, I guess, after a bit of neglect. Maybe the Rodney District Council dropped the ball on this. It didn't get brought across into the books, into the super city. Now we've found out about it. There was a legal challenge put forward. So that $260,000, has that been spent? And if not, how much has been, and when will it be back up to scratch? And what's our commitment as an organisation to do it?
So no, it hasn't been spent. A recent audit that was undertaken with the landowners identified that there was quite a significant shortfall on the maintenance that we should have undertaken there. We'll put our hands up, we dropped the ball there this year. However, we will make sure that those works will be undertaken and they will be accounted for separately from any targeted rate so that the landowners can be assured that we are not using their rated money to undertake a backlog of maintenance that we committed to doing.
I might just finish. I'll finish with a question because then it opens it up to any officer to respond. So it can be a little bit hard for people to wrap their head around this one because people have drainage, stormwater issues elsewhere in the city. They get charged a general rate and that goes towards fixing up their issues with their stormwater, right? So it's a community tax that gets spent for the community good of all Aucklanders. And so are you able to just explain why this group of landowners fall outside of that kind of scope of using general rates to fund this type of work?
So the breadth of council's stormwater services that are provided with general rates funding is set out in our various plans and documents. These are the only rural parts of Auckland where up until this point, stormwater services, apart from emergency services, have been funded by general rates. They had previously been funded by a targeted rate. The proposal is to revert to that funding mechanism, and that would see them treated in a similar way to other parts of rural Auckland, where the stormwater services are dealt with directly by the landowners.
And just very finally, thank you for your answers. That legal challenge, I don't know the ins and outs of what that legal challenge was originally. I suppose it's, I need to get this up to scratch. Is that legal risk for the organisation, has that been dealt with? Is that put to bed yet?
So the legal action really spurred us into developing the maintenance program, and also the culmination of that is this targeted rate proposal. So we believe we have responded to the material items in the legal challenge, and it is fair to say that the landowners are not happy with the proposal to pay a targeted rate, but I guess the issue for us as an operational department is making sure that the physical issues on the ground that were raised in the legal challenge have a means to be dealt with.
Right, good questions, thank you. Councillor Fletcher.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm seeking your guidance on B to understand how the vote will be taken, because there are aspects to the recommendations being put forward that I wish to support, but with the targeted accommodation rate, I do not support its reintroduction. And I do find it extraordinary that we've got no idea how much we've spent on legal fees. I didn't know that we worked on a cost plus basis in that particular area, but I would like to reserve my right to be able to vote against B, and just seek your guidance on how the vote will be taken in order that my vote can be recorded correctly.
I'm happy for you just to note your vote against B. On that issue, let's just be clear, we didn't consult on not doing it. We only consulted, so to vote not to have it at all is against what we consulted on. We consulted on bringing it back in 3 different timeframes, and this is the furthest time out. We will consider this as part of the annual plan, and it may or may be that we even push it out further. But what we have done is move it as far away as we can, noting that we have to deliver on what we consulted for. I'm just making sure you understand that.
Thank you for that, Madam Chair, but in the interest of consistency, I would still, because it's my right as an elected member, to record my vote.
Correct. Okay, we'll do that. Thank you. Peter?
And Councillor Fletcher, I have been able to, I've been informed of what the legal costs to date have been, and that has been reported by Todd Nile as well. It's been publicly released. That is approximately 1.5 million at this point.
Thank you. Councillor Henderson.
Thank you. If I could, 12's already there, that's fantastic. Just asking questions on 12. Not sure if you have the numbers, so aroha mai if you don't, but what are the numbers on the bid extensions? Because I understand there is a certain amount of turnout and a certain amount of yes votes you need.
So for a bid ballot to be successful, you have to get 25% of the ballots returned, and 50% of those have to be in favour for the extension to be approved.
And did we meet those thresholds in Manarewa and Dominion Road?
Yes.
Thank you. Question from Councillor Casey.
I've got 3 little questions, Andrew. The first is, could you put X111 up there, 8? Agree to the changes to the fees and charges, that's it. Could you just put it up, please? X111. Agree to the changes to fees and charges as set out in this report. Now, I want to just ask 3 questions in relation to that, because when we pass this, as we will unanimously, there's a little gem in there, and that's the removal of late fees for library items. Can you confirm that, Andrew?
Yes, that is included in that recommendation. It was well supported in the consultation.
Excellent. Question number 2. I'm looking at the scale of charges currently on the Auckland Library site. Can you confirm if we pass this today, that'll be gone tomorrow? That's a head librarian saying yes.
Apologies, it's my 11-year-old child.
Yeah.
Well, you should answer the phone.
I'm afraid I'm not in there. She's trying to get out of getting the bus to her mother's work. Yes.
Saw you.
Madam Chair and councillors, if this is passed, we can go live on the 1st of July, and we will be planning an implementation plan and a welcome back campaign.
Oh, you just
News
preempted my
story.
next question, Morgan. The 35,000 people who stopped using the libraries because of this charge, we will be welcoming them back, yes or no? And if so, how?
Yes, absolutely. We're looking forward to it hopefully passing so we can plan the implementation plan, but it will be a good news story, and there will be an amnesty provided and an email to all customers welcoming them back.
Thanks for that, Morgan. Any other questions? Comments? Councillor Walker.
I just want to continue to raise my objection to the accommodation targeted rate. It was very remiss of us to not give the option to actually drop that rate. And we should have gone out with that, we should have done that. I'd state again that it is unfair, it is a totally inappropriate match of the revenue that we collect, which arguably benefits a wide sector, of which the accommodation sector only amount to 9%, I understand, of the overall sector that relates to visitor attractions and major events. So it's the wrong match. The timing couldn't be worse. It hasn't stood the COVID test, and it should be dropped as soon as possible. If we do something bad, we should admit it and act accordingly.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Henderson.
Just briefly, I want to single out the library staff for praise for their fantastic work on the library fines issue. I just think it's fantastic. It's flexible thinking that will bring huge amounts of people back to the libraries from particularly low-income areas like those in my ward. I really want to thank you for that.
Thank you. And I just want to add on that point, look, you should always listen to opposing views, shouldn't you? Because I couldn't understand why you would possibly get rid of the fines. You take something, you don't return it, you should pay the price. It seemed pretty obvious to me. But I listened to an opposing view and I changed my mind. And I think that's important that we do that around the table sometimes. Always, in fact, we should always listen to everybody's view, and I think we've done that today. And Josephine, I acknowledge you and the role that you played in changing my personal opinion around that. So, with no further speakers, I have a move. Do I have a mover? Yes, we have Councillor Cashmer and myself. I'll take it to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Aye. Carried. Thank you. I have done that, thank
and
you.
my vote against
And
B.
Walker and...
My vote against B, Madam Chair, and also AX.
A10. Oh, yeah, thank you. Right, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to item 14, which doesn't exist because there are no extraordinary items. And I would just like to take this opportunity to thank you for the respect that you have shown around the table during some difficult debates and decision making. I'd like to again thank Peter and his staff. And that concludes your finance and performance meeting. We'll have a 5-minute break and go straight into governing body. Thank you. Sorry, 10. I've been asked for 10.